A lot of people in the chat asking about Matthew Knies. That has been something I've noticed the last couple games, and maybe it works part and parcel with Austin Matthews being out of the lineup. But Matthew Knies certainly not scoring at the pace as he did earlier on in the season. But again, it just shows you the turbulency that you're going to find. Nothing's really linear when it comes to kids. And you lose sight sometimes of the fact that these guys are still really, really young, still finding their footing in the National League. And Matthew Knies is in a tough stretch right now.
Yeah, it's like anything, too. I feel like you see that a lot with players turning professional, right? I feel like you get that early season emotional high. You come in, it's easy to play, and then you start to learn the grind of the NHL, the travel, and what's going on. And there's highs and lows. I think it takes time. But I also think with Austin Matthews being out, Matthew Knies gets a little more coverage, gets a little more work. It's a little harder. He doesn't have the same space. That's the other thing. When you have superstars in your lineup, they draw more attention, right? So I think for Matthew Knies, he's going to have to learn to play through that. But I also think at times when you aren't having it, a player like Matthew Knies can simplify his game and just be harder and physical because he has that body and he has that presence on the rink.
Well, I think to your point, like that's the part that's not going to be spoken about. I think ultimately in pro sports, it's about production. Knies isn't getting points, so that's what ultimately people look at. But I think he brings different aspects to the games and different intangibles, whereas like I haven't noticed that he's been struggling because he's been doing some other things, right? Just the way his style, his brand, his physicality. I think that's a really good and positive thing about Matthew Knies' game. For me, at least, it's not all about the points. Like the production hasn't been there, but he has been doing some other things, which is always a positive.
Yeah, I agree. And that's something you can do as a player, right? Where something I feel as a goalie was such a trickier thing, I think, as I matured, because there'd be nights where you get 10 shots and you wanted to be busy, you wanted to play good. And you can't control that. Whereas a player, it's like, hey, I'm fighting it. I'm not finding the back of the net. It's not that. Well, okay, well, then I'm going to be physical. I'm going to make sure this next shift I go in and I forecheck and I hit somebody and I put my stamp on the game in that way, and it can start to come. Where that's where I think he needs to find that maturity to find it and keep fighting through, because it's a fine line scoring the NHL, right? These guys are so good and there's no time, no space, and they make things happen quick. So if you're off a little bit offensively, it looks like you're off a ton. But I agree. I think he is maturing into a really great player. And this is the brand of hockey that I think he's going to have to play come playoff time if they want to be successful, and personally for him.
Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Roseau. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.